Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line.
Good afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line. It's a real pleasure to welcome Paul Davis to the show today. Paul is an award-winning consultant, author, speaker and advisor who specialises very much in improving your career, finding your purpose and really making your future much better. So thanks very much, Paul. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Anna. I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm particularly interested because you're Irish and I'm Irish too. So my mother was born in Dublin. So, it's even better.
Excellent. Very good.
Okay, so the topic that we're going to be talking about is really how to find purpose and meaning in your career so that you can reach your full potential. And I know many people talk about the idea of purpose and living by your purpose, but it's not always clear exactly what life purpose really means. So can you start by defining it, just to make it a bit clearer for people?
Sure. Yeah, not a problem. So let me put it this way. A lot of people get out of bed every single morning and they go to a job, they earn the money and they earn the money in order to pay the bills. And ultimately they want to have a holiday, if not 2 holidays in the year in order to get away from the job that they're in. So that's primarily, it's a lot of people, and literally globally, there's millions of people doing that every single day.
Yeah.
They get out of bed in the morning, they go to a job just to earn the money in order to live the life that they want to have.
Yeah.
Whereas purpose it's a much higher calling. It's to do something more with your life. It's to have meaning in your life. And every single individual has an individual purpose.
Yeah.
So having a purpose in your life it's much more than having a job. Some may consider it being like a vocation. Others may consider it being that there's an ultimate aim of what it is that you want to achieve. And that's what having a purpose is.
Okay. It makes the whole thing sound much more interesting, more rewarding. How can we find out what our life purpose is? Because if I think of me, I brought up my kids alone for a long time. So at the time, I had a purpose, which was basically, as you said, to pay the bills, go to work, make sure everything. It wasn't some wonderful idea or passion or anything. It's just doing something like that. So how can we really dig into ourselves and find out what our own life purpose is? Because I'm sure it's not always clear for everybody.
It's not, and people have been talking about life purpose for centuries.
Yeah.
And even for some people that they come across a crossroads in their life whereby either something's triggered them or something's happened in their life and they start to question themselves as regards, well, what am I doing? What direction am I going in? What should I be doing, even from a career or from a business perspective? What's the direction that they should be going on in life? And what they'll typically find is they'll find themselves going online or in the bookstore and looking for different books or information about finding your life purpose. And they'll come across different things along the lines of, well, if you want to find your purpose, find what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
However, that's going to not lead them to their purpose. And there's so many people that talk about find your passion, but it's absolutely nothing whatsoever got to do with your purpose.
Yeah.
So let me explain that for your listeners. Passion comes from the origin of the word passion comes from the Latin term pati, which is to suffer.
Right.
So if you think about it from a Christianity perspective, the passion of Christ was the suffering of Christ. So that's absolutely the origin of the word passion. And there's a lot of things that I'm passionate about, but there's nothing whatsoever got to do with purpose.
Yeah.
What you'll find, and everybody will be able to connect with this, when you find something that you're passionate about, you'll do it for a period of time, but if you're doing it all the time, you'll actually lose interest in it.
Yeah.
Because passions are transient. Where when you're working on your life purpose stays with you throughout your whole life.
Yeah.
It's what you're born with, your life purpose. It stays with you throughout your whole life. And it's something that you aim towards and strive in order to fulfill throughout your whole life.
Yeah.
Other people will come across in terms of, well, find your why. And it's a question that I hear quite regularly in terms of from other life coaches and business coaches in terms of, well, Find out why it is you do what you do. And most people will answer that question from the perspective of, well, I do it because it makes me earn the money in order to pay the bills and pay the rent and the mortgage and all that kinds of things. But what you'll find is that people are trying to figure out their why using their conscious mind.
Yeah.
And it's going to be always 100% of the time wrong.
Right.
Because when you're working out something from your conscious mind perspective, your life purpose comes from your unconscious.
Okay.
It's divinely given, and it's within you on a spirit level or on a soul level. If it depends on what your terminology you feel comfortable with, but it's coming from your unconscious, and your unconscious is constantly giving you feedback in order for you to fulfill what your life purpose is.
Yeah.
So finding your why using your conscious thinking will always be the wrong why. Always. Every single time.
Yeah.
On top of that, people try and figure out their why based on what they're currently doing.
Yeah.
And 100% of the people that come to me are not doing everything in line with what their life purpose is. So sometimes they need to be altered slightly, as in a realignment of what they're doing. Others need a 180-degree change in relation to what they're doing in terms of what their life purpose is. Other people will come across, ikigai. Ikigai is that Japanese term which leads you to, gives meaning in your life and gives you fulfillment. But a lot of people struggle with trying to find out what their ikigai is, because one of the circles that within the ikigai diagram, and for people that aren't familiar with it, it's a lot of circles like a Venn diagram, and there's a lot of different things. You've got to answer each circle in order to actually find what's going to give your life meaning.
Yeah.
And one of those circles is around finding what your mission is.
Yeah.
And people struggle with that question, and therefore they can never really complete the ikigai.
Yeah.
How you discover, so let me explain life purpose. We all have an overarching life purpose.
Yeah.
And our overarching life purpose is to be your genius you.
Yeah.
Live life fully, to experience, to love, and to evolve. Now, each one of those terms that I'm using has a much, much deeper meaning, and it's multifaceted. But let me start with the genius you. Your overarching purpose in life, let me just repeat that, is to be your genius you, to live life fully, to experience, to love, and to evolve. Your genius is what you are here to become. Yeah. Your genius, if you look up the origin of the word genius, it's that innate ability. It's the spirit that's present within yourself from birth. And that's what genius is. Yeah. So in order to find out what your life purpose is, because every individual has a unique individual life purpose. So you have your overarching life purpose, but then you have a unique individual life purpose that's relevant. It's literally, it's fingerprint specific to you. And there's 4 elements, what I've discovered, that makes up your life purpose. And again, I've been doing this for many, many years. There's a part of me whereby I was born with a number of gifts, and one of those gifts is a high level of intuitive ability and precognitive. So when I would come across people, I would see things for them in terms of insights, knowings, visions for them, and so on. So that's the life that I grew up with.
Yeah.
But what I've learned to discover with the insights and the knowings that I was getting for people was about their life purpose.
Yeah.
So, but I also trained as an accountant and became a business consultant.
Right.
So I'm quite logical, quite analytical.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I had to do is I had to find a methodology, a structure, a process that would correlate with the insights and the knowings that I would get for my clients. And that methodology is what I call the executive code. And within that, there's 4 elements that make up your life purpose. So let me go through each of those 4 elements. There's what I call your genius drivers. Yeah. Your genius drivers is what gives you fulfillment. So think of it from the perspective of the analogy I give for people is that imagine you've got 3 buckets in front of you, and each one of those buckets represents a genius driver.
Yeah.
Part of what you're to do throughout your life is to fill each one of those buckets. When you fill each one of those buckets, that's where you get the sense of fulfillment. So where people come to me and say, Paul, I just feel lost. I feel there's no meaning in my life. There's no reason for my life to be here. I just don't have the joy that's set for life anymore. Ultimately, what's happening, part of it, is that they're not filling those genius buckets. They're not filling their genius drivers.
Yeah.
That's one side. That's your genius drivers gives you the joy, the fulfillment, the sense, the zest for life, that mojo that people refer to. Then there's your genius role. Now, in all the clients that I've worked with over the years, I've identified 10 different genius roles.
Yeah.
And an individual will play one of those roles throughout their whole life. They don't have to work at it. They don't have to go to school on it. They don't have to university. They don't have to, literally, they don't have to develop it. They innately have it within themselves.
Yeah.
But throughout our career, or even as a business owner, what we end up doing is we wear multiple hats. So therefore we're playing different roles. And as we go through our career ladder from a promotion perspective, we end up playing multiple different roles.
Yeah.
However, our genius role is innate within ourselves. And for the vast majority of people that are in careers, or even business matters, as business owner for that matter, they're not fully aligned to what their genius role is. Your genius role is the best alignment in order for you to fulfill what your life purpose is.
Yeah.
But there's also a shadow side and a frustration point to each genius role. So when certain things happen and certain things get triggered, that shadow side and that frustration point will expose itself, let's put it that way, within an individual. And that's what causes self-sabotage. So many people can be, doing really, really well in their career, having a lot of success, and then all of a sudden they have a trigger. And then now they start to be held back in relation to promotions. They start to be held back in relation to, their team not performing well. That's the shadow side that comes out, and that's the frustration point. The next part then is around what I call your genius quest. Your genius quest is your mission in life. It is what you are to do. So when you go back to Ikigai and say, okay, well, what's my mission in life? Your genius quest is your specific mission that you're here to fulfill. It's your what in life. And that what is absolutely specific to an individual. And then the last part is what I call your genius inspiration. So people look for their why, but the why is incorrect. Your genius inspiration, again, if you look up the origin and the definition of the word inspiration, it's divine guidance.
Yeah.
That's what inspiration is. And everybody will know moments in their life where they felt inspired.
Yes.
So what we do is, what I do when I'm working with clients is I identify each one of those elements, meaning their genius drivers, their genius role, their genius quest, and their genius inspiration. And that's what makes up the genius you.
Okay. Oh, that's really interesting. So, I mean, how do you do it with a series of questions? Do you do a sort of an analysis of what people have done before and when they felt good or bad? Or how do you get below the obvious or below the sort of the superficial layer? Because everybody thinks that they believe something, but a lot of it is predeterminations, and you have to dig and dig and dig and dig to get all the layers out of the way to get down. So it sounds like it's a really intense process.
It's actually a fun process. It sounds intense, but it's actually quite fun, because ultimately, so each one of those elements comes from your unconscious. And what I do is I ask a specific set of questions, which looks for the evidence that our unconscious is giving us the whole time. Now, when I'm working with a client on one-on-one, I'm using my intuition along with asking the questions. And now I'm able to drill down an awful lot more, and then I get more insights and knowings for people. But what I've also developed, I've developed a course whereby people literally can go through the course themselves. I'm there in the course environment to answer any questions that they have. But they're able to go through the course and answer the questions for themselves in order to find the evidence. And then by bringing all the information together, now that gives us everything that we need to know in relation to those four elements. So in answer to your question, it's actually asking a very, very specific set of questions. And the questions are worded or aimed in such a way as to find the evidence that our unconscious has given us. And that's how we're able to drill down into those layers.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to have to do this. I'm really going to have to do
You're
this.
more than welcome.
So once we've found out our life purpose, and we've gone through all of the process, whatever, what difference does it make to us as individuals when we live by our life purpose? Because again, this is something people talk about it, but they don't really give any concrete idea about what it's going to change, how we're going to feel. You know, it's always a very sort of abstract idea.
Okay. It's black and white.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So let me explain that. Remember I said earlier on whereby most people are going through life and they get up in the morning, they get out of bed, they have their breakfast and all that kind of usual routine that they have, and they go to work, they earn the money to pay the bills and so on. However, do you remember as a kid and you'd get up on Christmas morning?
Yeah.
And even the run up to Christmas, the day before Christmas morning, you say, "Oh my God, okay, Christmas night tomorrow, and I'm going to get my present. I'm going to run downstairs, and Santa's going to be left my present, and I'm going to be so excited about getting the present on Christmas morning." And then Christmas morning comes, and you cannot wait to get out of bed. It's 5 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock. You're counting down the time of what you've been given by your parents in order to the time that it's allowed to get out of bed.
Yes.
And then it comes to like say 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're literally now running down the stairs in order to get into the room because we know that special room has all the presents in it that Santa has left the night before. And then we go into the room, we see the presents on the floor. And typically for me, it was either under the Christmas tree or right beside the fireplace. We run over, we get to the presents, we start ripping off all the wrapping paper. And then lo and behold, we see the present that's there within the wrapping paper. And we spend the whole day playing with that present.
Yes.
That's what it's like living on purpose. It is absolutely
that excitement, that passion. Yeah.
Every single time that I'm working with clients, and I'm working with them from the perspective of doing the work that I do. Think of your life purpose from the perspective of it's a higher calling. There's a reason why you're doing it.
Yes.
Something that's much larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
So every single time that my clients and I are working on our individual purposes, when we're doing the work, we're in that zone. We're in the flow.
Yes.
We absolutely love doing what we're doing. So where people say, well, find your passion. Yes, you'll enjoy the passion for that period of time, but passions are transient. Whereas your life purpose, you're in that zone of absolutely loving what you're doing.
Yeah.
Everything else, all time and space, you lose all concept of time and space when you're living on your purpose. Let me put it this way. Things become an awful lot easier.
Yes.
When you're working on your purpose, when I talk about your genius you, I'm talking about your genius you in equilibrium, because there's a lot more to the executive code. It's not just about finding your life purpose, but when you're in equilibrium, life becomes an awful lot more effortless.
Yeah. Yeah. It must, if you're feeling that real strength, that power, that excitement about doing something, even when you've got difficult things, because it doesn't matter what happens, life can be difficult. It must give you a lot more resilience.
Yeah.
And it must enable you to stay neutral or positive, even when there's something really bad. So it gives you more strength, as well as all the really, really good points and all the excitement. Yeah. It makes the bad things manageable or neutral, or you've just got more reserves to draw on.
Yeah, exactly.
That must be amazing, because so many people suffer at the moment, with mental health problems and stress at work and things like that. Oh, that's another thing that I was really interested in, harnessing your life purpose into a professional context.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my clients, they love their job. Well, I don't know if they love their jobs. They go happily to their jobs most days. But a lot of them are really struggling with the stress, with the pressure, with everything else. So if you can somehow manage to harness this in a professional context, how can it make a difference, not just to your career, but to leadership? So whether it's leadership, you being the leader, or whether it's the idea of leadership in helping those around you on the same level, how can you use it?
Perfect. Because you will have come across the term, and many of your listeners will have as well over the years, where people would have talked about authentic leadership.
Yep.
Okay. Authentic leadership is your true you, your true essence. That's what the core of authentic leadership, that's what it is. Now, when you are being your authentic self, that's when your innate leadership shines through.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people they wear different masks. They play different roles.
Yeah.
So they're trying to emulate somebody else
Yeah.
and not themselves.
Yeah.
When you know your life purpose, and again, when I'm talking about being your genius pendulum and being in equilibrium, you're being your most authentic self.
Yeah.
So that's when you come from a leadership perspective, because now it's the true essence of who you are. It's the genius that's within you, and it's your genius self. But when you're operating within your life purpose and you're in equilibrium, now that's when you're more objective, you're more creative, you're more innovative, and you're more driven.
Yeah.
Now, that's innate within yourself. You don't have to be forced, or you don't have to be externally motivated in order to do each one of those. You're now literally innately driven to do each one of those, in terms of be more objective, to be more creative, to be more innovative, to be more driven. You're innately driven within that. What it means for somebody that's within a career is obviously it's better results, it's better performance, it's for the company, it's solving problems in a much more creative and innovative way. It's ultimately you're of more value to the company. Yeah. And by being of more value, you're earning more. I've had results with clients that are working within companies, and they're at a senior level, and yet the level of further promotion and further earnings that they gain is phenomenal. There's one individual that comes to mind straight away, whereby the HR, somebody within their HR department of the company, it's a global company, contacted me and said they gave me an outline of what they were experiencing with the individual.
Yep.
And the whole board of directors were unhappy with this particular individual, and they didn't know what else to do. I brought him through in terms of what I call the pilot's manual, which is finding out what your life purpose is.
Yes.
Let me roll forward 4 months. So we find out what an individual's life purpose is very, very quickly, but the 4 months is embedding that individual within the business in alignment with their life purpose. The amount of progress that he has achieved within the business is huge. He is now seen by the board of directors as being a much, much higher value individual within the business itself. The team dynamic has completely changed with his department, and he himself is a completely different individual, even if you were to look back on him 4 months prior. Completely different. His whole demeanor, his whole presence about himself, his whole confidence, everything about him has completely changed. He's still the same individual, but the results or the essence of him has now been more aligned. And that's when somebody is operating in line with their genius role, but also in line with what their life purpose is. And so the difference is huge from a business perspective.
Yeah. So in that case, is it possible to take something like this and really integrate it into a company so that it improves their ethos, their values, their sense of well-being, and genuinely improve the work environment as well as everything else? Can you do it as a sort of broad spectrum with everybody?
Yeah, it's where I get called in, and typically I start with, it depends on the size of the company.
Yeah.
If the company's been headed up by a single owner or a CEO or an owner manager, for example, I'll start with him or her.
Yeah.
If it's held up by a senior management team, and so for example, you've got your C-suite, and it's the C-suite basically that is operating or managing the business. Yeah. I'll identify the individual life purposes of each individual.
Yeah.
Find the alignment between each one of those life purposes, and now we trickle that down within the business itself. So we find out the individual life purposes of every single individual within the business, and then we align those individual life purposes to the overarching life purpose of the business. Now, don't get me wrong, Anna, do we lose some people? Yeah, we do.
Sure. Yeah.
But however, it's of huge benefit to the individual that we've lost, but also they're fulfilling their life purpose in a different career or in a different path. But now you've got people within the business that are completely aligned to the purpose of the business. Yeah. And now you've got a cohesive team working well together. So that's from a team dynamics point of view. Yeah. But everybody will be hearing over the last number of years, and it's just, unfortunately, it's just going to get worse in terms of mental health issues, people not feeling, valued within the business, people not having any kind of sense of meaning or purpose within the business. And that's the terminology you're going to start hearing coming out. And even over the last 2 years where we've gone through the pandemic, you'll find people say that they've enjoyed parts of living at home and not being in the office.
Yeah.
So they've been exposed, for one better word, to different aspects of their life. But
Yes.
that's given them, for one better word, a bit of a wake-up call to realize actually there's more to life.
Yeah.
Can you have both? You can absolutely have both. You can be pursuing, which a lot of the executives that I'd be working with, you can pursue the career that you want to pursue that's completely aligned with your life purpose, but you get so much more from it.
Yes. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And I'm sure even the people that go, I'm sure they go on to better things because they've realized they don't work. But for the people that stay, you haven't got that sort of complicated, sometimes toxic personality because they're so unhappy in what they're doing. So it brings a whole energy, which allows everyone to really grow together. It sounds amazing. Do many companies do that? I mean, it sounds like all companies should be forced to do it.
Yeah, I wish. But I'll give you this one because I'm uniquely placed in what I do.
Yeah.
I have there's nobody that is in the globe. There's nobody that can do what I can do. And I'm not saying that from an egotistical perspective.
Yeah.
I've spent decades aligning the methodology that I use to the insights and the knowings that I get for clients.
Yeah.
So, and hence the reason why, where people have gone through, finding your passion, find your why, use your ikigai. I know all of those don't work.
Yes.
The results that I get from clients, that when I bring them through the process, they're saying it's absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. And they've been searching themselves for years in order to try and find the answers for themselves in relation to what is that higher calling, what's that higher purpose that they're supposed to be on. So wouldn't it be absolutely amazing if companies were forced to do it, because the difference it would make, not just even for the company, but and also for the individuals, but globally the difference will be huge.
Yeah.
And that's part of the mission that I'm on.
Yeah. No, and because you've worked as a consultant and advisor as well, haven't you? So you've got huge amounts of experience from all different companies, all different ways of doing things. So you've got like 100 times more experience than most people because you've had to work with all of those different setups, different ways of doing things, and you can bring all of that to see things and analyze things and balance things.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. Okay. So any final piece of wisdom or key strategy that you would like to give us so that we can move forward in a better way?
It's okay, but the only thing that comes to mind is that, so we're actually recording this on, it's the 1 year anniversary of my brother passing away last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He passed away at the age of 56.
Yeah.
From cancer.
Yeah.
And so it's literally the 1 year anniversary today. And there's one thing that I always say to people, and that is knowing your life purpose is the single most powerful way for an individual to reach their full potential and to reach the level of success and fulfillment that you want in life.
Yeah.
All my thoughts in today is more like life is just so precious.
Yes.
And we never know when we're going to go.
Yeah. So
ultimately, it's from the point of view of what's the kind of life do you want to live?
Yes.
So it's more, I suppose, a message for people to say, actually, just take literally 5-10 minutes out of your day right now at the moment and consider, what do you want the rest of your life to look like?
Yeah. Yeah. Do it now. Don't put it off. Yeah. That's a lovely thing to leave people with. Lastly, where can people find you or get in touch with you to learn more? Because I'm sure, like me, many of them will be totally hooked and want to come and do the course, find out more. And quite a lot of the business clients I've got, I'm sure they'd be very interested in knowing more, for their teams, for things like that.
Yeah. The easiest way is if people just go to my website, which is paulwilliamdavis.com. Everything's there. There's loads of information there by way of free resource that you can download. I have a podcast that's there as well. They'll be able to get access to the podcast. I have an online community that's supporting people to be their genius self.
Yeah.
I've an online course which I've literally only created in the last number of months, which again is within the community. So I'm there present as people are going through the course itself. And I didn't say this to you before, but if your listeners want a discount off the course, I'm quite happy to give a discount. So if you just literally, especially for your particular listeners, Anna, people can get a discount if they use the coupon code Aviator. Their means are going to get 25% discount off the actual course itself. And that's the Discover Your Life Purpose course, where people literally can find out exactly what their unique individual life purpose is. So the easy way is for people literally just to go to my website, paulwilliamdavis.com.
Perfect. Okay. And I'll put links at the bottom of the page so people can just click on the links and go through.
Yeah. Perfect.
Well, thank you very much. It's been really very, very interesting. And I think it's going to make a big difference to a lot of people if they can just harness that and go forward with it. Wonderful. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate everything. Everybody look at the links, go and visit his website and really do everything you possibly can. And remember his last message, really think about what you can do in your life to make it better and do it now. Okay. Thank you, Paul. See you again soon.
Thank you so much.